Hello everyone! Today I'm going to be going over my Rey Scavenger hilt with the Master Chassis install. This is actually my first Master Chassis install that I've ever done, and the first, of course, Rey Scavenger Master Chassis I've ever done. So this thing is getting sold, so this video is going to serve as a how-to guide and a showcase of how this saber works and all the things to keep in mind for the future owner. And with that out of the way, let's open it up and show off what it comes with. It'll come in its original box. The hilt is one of the last hilts sold by the Saber Armory, and it is not made up yet, so it does not have the grips set up on it, and it's not weathered, so it's going to have to be sent off to someone to get weathered and finished up with the grips and whatnot. But as it is right now, it's pretty neat because you can see the chassis inside, and yeah. There's a couple other things that I do know about the newer ones versus the older ones. It comes with the shorter screws so the chassis can fit. It also comes with an O-ring, which I find is only useful when you don't have the chassis in. So when the chassis is in, no need for an O-ring. When the chassis is not in, the O-ring does help. I don't know if that's going to be different once it's weathered and has the grips on it or not, but that's just what I've found so far. The emitter opening mechanism actually goes further, so it's easier to put a blade in and press the button and whatnot. Now, the things you got to keep in mind about this hilt always is it's not a dueling saber. Do not fight with it. Don't really mess around with it much other than very light play maybe. And that is because these emitter petals are super fragile. The mechanism to open and close it is also super fragile and full of super tiny pieces that can easily get lost or damaged. And speaking of things getting lost, you must always keep track of the super tiny screws that hold the petals on and hold all of these arms in place. There's 2 up top and 2 down below at the base of the arms, and then 2 holding the emitter petals on. So in total there's 6 per arm. 6 super tiny screws per arm. So you got to keep track of that. Make sure you try and tighten them whenever they're loose, or maybe when the weathering service gets done, perhaps they can use some Loctite or whatever to hold it in. Now, with that being said, we're going to move on to the chassis, and I'll show that off because I've pretty much covered everything hilt related. To take the chassis out, as you can see, you do need to have a slight turn because this is using a little A or J lock mechanism. I think it's an L lock of some sort. So you just turn it counterclockwise and pull it out. And you must make sure to keep it aligned. And what I mean by that is if you see here, there's a channel, a guide channel going from the top all the way down here to where this guide channel is. That must maintain alignment with these 2 screws here, one on this side, one on this side, so that it can slide in. Otherwise, it's not going to slide in and out. There you go, you can see that. And before I cover this, the other things that come with it are the challenge coin from KRSaber's, an extra screw. I forgot what that's for, but that screw is there. These are the side panels for the hilt, and a super tiny screw. Once again, I've forgotten what that one's for. It's been a long time since I've installed one of these, so I've forgotten what the screws are. And then these are all of the grips that are necessary. The 3 different types, it looks like, maybe 4. But you've got all the different grip types you need for this thing to get wrapped. Yeah, there's a lot of different grip wraps. Now, putting that off to the side, you can easily take the chassis out just by sliding it open. I will include a battery, 18650 lithium-ion battery. One of these guys. Before that, let's have a look at the chassis itself. You can access the SD card with some tweezers. The easiest way is to access it underneath through the battery section. Click it down, and then you can use your finger to pull it out, or what I like to do is just use some tweezers and pull it out that way. It's easier to do when it's off camera. There we go. It's easier if you have two fingers, I guess. So there you go. And then you can just put it back in by using this finger to guide it. There we go. Got it all set up. And then of course you have the micro USB. You can use a 90-degree micro USB to plug into the board, access the Rice terminal or whatever you call it, the application. Alright, sorry about that cut there. I went ahead and updated the soundboard and did a few SD card things, mainly calibrating the force activation, and I'll show you what that is in a second. But yeah, that's why I did a jump cut there. So, I don't know where I'm going to edit this in, so I'm just going to go over the chassis again. Basically, this is the Guthrie Designs Master Chassis, weathered brass. There's a real quartz crystal inside of here. It's got a bunch of accent pixels, a lot of which were not intended to go into this, so I experimented a lot with how that's all set up. So starting from the bottom, we have, I think, 3 or 4 accent pixels down here. Maybe it's 3, but we've got accent pixels down here facing towards the soundboard, so it shines through this section. And then I have, this is the very interesting part, I have a pixel accent strip wrapped around 360 degrees in this section. I call it the turbine section. This is before the pixel rings were made, so all my future builds have pixel rings in them, and this is the only build that I've done that has the pixels facing outward wrapped 365 degrees. So it's very interesting. And then I have a pixel strip going from the bottom to the top up here. Don't know how many pixels are in there, maybe 7, but it goes up and down. And then I've got a pixel for the crystal, and then there are 2 pixels up in the top here, but they don't work anymore. I don't know why. And then speaking of which, each pixel strip is wired in a way where the last pixel on each strip will mimic the next pixel on the next strip, so that makes programming it a little bit strange. If you ever plan on programming it, then keep that in mind. You can just check out the Pixies folder to see what the BMPs are doing in order to sort of make it work how you need. So the last pixel on this strip, the one in the middle I talked about, underneath the crystal, so it's not the crystal pixel, but the one underneath it, that one acts a bit strange. I think the color's a little off there, so when you're changing colors you can kind of see it. But other than that, this works exactly as intended. It's got force activation, it has chassis detection, and then all the extra pixels that I mentioned. What I did is upgrade this a little bit from the last time you saw it during my build video. So I replaced the, the resistor for the blade detection. I replaced that one because it was huge. I replaced it with a smaller one I've been using, and then that means that this soundboard can sit further down, which allowed me to remove the captain tape, and now I can have the soundboard cover on without the ugly yellow captain tape. So, with that being said, let me show you how to remove the battery. You could either remove it by using your finger here and pushing it out that way, or you can use tweezers to shove it under the positive side and pry it out like that, and then you can just pull it out. Negative goes towards the speaker, positive goes towards the crystal and the blade and whatever else. So you just put that in. And as you notice, I have this whole setup with black wires so that it's barely noticeable. So let's turn it on and I'll show you how it all works. So with the force activation, you need a magnetic ring, and then you can just do that.
Core stability at 93.138%.
You can see how all the pixels work. You've got the pixels back here. I think it's just cycling blue and red.
Energy flux.
Then you've got the 360 degrees of pixels in the turbine section. And then you have this strip going upwards. And then the crystal pixel, and then nothing up there. And you can kind of see how that yellow extends down there. That's the weird pixel I was telling you about. This is all a single button setup.
Goodbye.
So the controls for a single button setup are going to be in the description of this video. Everything you need to know to keep in mind, everything I'm going to mention in this video that's important to keep in mind is going to be in the description, and anything that I've forgotten to mention. And then there's also a bunch of customization resources down there, and the single button quick interaction guide will be down there. And if you have any questions, just let me know and I can answer them. Other than that, let me mention the motor that's spinning. You can control it on the 4th color channel. That'll also be in the description. So that's how you dictate the speed of the rotating motor section. And that's pretty much it. I glued these in because they weren't glued in a while ago, but they're all glued in. These are just decorative. There's nothing functional about them. And yeah, everything else works how it should. So this is set up with an SD card that I have for pretty much all my hilts, with the exception of the Rey font that's also on here. So I believe I showed you how it worked in the hilt before, but not with the chassis on. So once again, make sure you align these 2 screws at the pommel end when you put in the chassis, but you're going to want to put the bottom in first. So you take the bottom, put it in, and you want to align this channel here, there's 2 of them on both sides, with the sort of L lock right there. So just align that. And then you can put the chassis into the hilt by aligning the channel with those screws, putting it in, and then you can hear the chassis detection right there. And look, you can look inside of the hilt and see the crystal. So to turn the lightsaber on, you just turn the cog all the way to the very end, and then it'll activate it. Tap it for auxiliary. Hold it a little longer for the to turn it off, and then if you want clash, you hold it and then clash. There we go. And look at that. It's pretty cool to look at. And this takes a 1-inch blade. I'm going to show you how that works real quick. Basically, you're going to want a screwdriver, and I forgot which one I have this set up in, but one of these screws at the very top is the blade retention screw. Alright, so the blade retention screw is currently aligned with this little box on the handle. If you go 180 degrees here, there's no box. So here is the box. That's the blade retention screw. It might change when the weathering gets all done, but in any case, let's put in the 1-inch blade and I'll show you how it works. Of course, you're going to want to make sure that the emitter petals are out of the way. Be very gentle. Push all the way to the bottom. Well, let me loosen up that retention screw because for whatever reason I just tightened it. Make sure the blade goes all the way to the bottom. I like to keep it flat against the table and just stand it up like that. You can kind of see it in the corner of your eye there. Tighten it up. That way you know for sure it has a solid connection. And then, boom. And there is a font gest, which means you can cycle through the fonts super quickly. Instead of going to the sound selection menu, which you hold this down for a few seconds.
Sound bank selection. Red.
So instead of cycling through all those, I have 30 fonts here. You can just hold down the power and then clash. It's a bit tricky to do when I'm trying to work around my whole setup here, but there we go. And I've got like 30 fonts on here. You can change that however you want, but that's pretty much how this lightsaber works. Let me just take it apart again so you can see how you disassemble it, and then I will wrap up this video. There's really not too much to say about it. Alright, so here I'm going to show off the detached sound. So when you take the chassis out, it also swaps back to the non-working font.
Chassis disengaged. Crystal 4 exposed. Repair and maintenance mode operational.
Alright, and then you can just hit the kill switch. And you will see that it lights up red. I think it's however I wired it up, so if you want it to not glow red, just do a quick on-off cycle again, and boom, all the lights will be off. And then of course you could also take the battery out to do that. But yeah, that is this lightsaber. Hopefully you enjoyed taking a look at it. It'll be sad to let it go, but it'll be going to a much more appreciated place. Because right now it's just sitting here doing nothing in my collection. So hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.